est dure, la vie est mon âme est sûre d'aucune borne. Que dois-je faire avec ma vie quand toute la terre est endurcie?
At last, we've started.
Explaining Roads to Freedom is quite hard because being the first television I ever did, I had no reason or capability of looking at the project and giving my opinion about it. A job, thank you, yes please. And I did it, sort of.
What's your game?
Game? Oh, no game. I simply want to die in luxury, that's all.
Hmm?
The German bombers have probably already taken off. And I intend to enjoy myself as we're blown to bits.
You'll enjoy yourself.
But it's clearly seminal, looking back over 50 years. I was in something which deserves to be remembered.
The corn is ripening. Soon they'll be bringing home the harvest. The yearly round, season after season, century after century, sowing and reaping. Such is mankind. Do you know, I love all men. Frenchmen, Germans. I love Hitler.
I would like to think that people who've watched it, who've never had the opportunity to do so before, will first of all marvel at some of the performances, which I think were stupendous. The fact that it was made at all, that it's the work of a philosopher and genius, Jean-Paul Sartre, who managed to turn his thoughts into watchable drama. And remember about things like the war, what the war meant for the people of France. It was bad enough for us, but for them being occupied by the Germans and what happened to their lives. Because I think probably the first half of Roads to Freedom is about their lives until the bombing of Paris. And so you've got to know all these people with their weaknesses, their foibles, their passions, their betrayals, their hatreds, human beings. You've got to know them, and then suddenly this external event, you could argue it's like what's happening to the people in the Ukraine at the moment. It's very relevant today, very relevant. Beautifully cast, and there were some wonderful performances in it.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I'm just going to do one more shocking thing, just for the amusement of Madame. I wonder how she'll stand the sight of blood.
A witch.
Is she going to faint?
No, you're mad. Come and get
It's
it
my
bandaged.
blood. I like seeing my blood.
It's enough.
You dared to touch me again. I thought you'd be shocked. It's too much for you, isn't it?
I was only in 3 episodes, but when I saw the whole thing, I realised how lucky I was to start my career in something that was quite as important as I believe that series was. My character was raping one of the lead characters while Paris was being raped by the Germans. And a lot of the storylines in Roads to Freedom are about betrayal and corruption and a loss of innocence and all those things that don't make normal television fare. I mean, they do exist now, but back then it was brave television. I do remember my first day in a rehearsal room with a lot of very distinguished actors, and I was fresh out of drama school, literally, first telly. They said, OK, let's rehearse the rape scene. And they had this bed in the middle of the rehearsal room floor. And suddenly all those people who were reading their papers or a book or chatting all stopped. It all went deathly quiet. And I walked across to this bed with Alison Fisk, who played Yvitch. And at that precise moment, I thought, they're all going to snigger and point fingers. And I think if you can do that as an actor, you can almost do anything. My memory of the actual filming, the rehearsal was bad enough, but when we filmed it in the studio, there was a sequence of shots. I was engaged in my activity of deflowering this sweet young girl. The way they were filming it, it had to be timed. And so the floor manager, he was under the bed. They'd cut a hole in the base of the bed. His hand went through it and prodded my posterior each time I had to continue with my nefarious activity. They say that drama is glamorous. They're wrong.
Tell me you love me.
I hate you.
And that theme song, there aren't many programmes whose theme song I can remember 50 years after I was in the programme. And
La route est dure, la vie est morne, mon âme est sûre.
it was just so striking, cut through the mood, because it was almost antithetical to what the programme was about, this gentle, plaintive introduction. I thought it was lovely. The fact that Daniel Massey was playing an overtly gay homosexual character was unusual for drama at that time.
I'm so glad I came. Here I am then, God. Here I am as you made me. An irredeemable, dirty-minded old pervert. Right. You've put me here. Now sustain me. I'm as queer as a coot forever and ever, amen.
All those storylines are ones that a lot of people would find uncomfortable. So the best possible reason for doing it, in my opinion.
God help us.
Will you shut up?
No. Oh my goodness. There are a lot of people who are going to be more upset about that than anything else in the show.
Not long now, dears. That's that.
Let's look at the time. Nicely done. 30 seconds to go. On the dot of 11:30, I take the basket in my right hand and the stone in my left hand. I rise and drop them both into the river simultaneously. The basket will float for a moment or two and then bubble, bubble, bubble. Here we are. We're coming up to it. 5, 4, 3, 2, right.
Don't do it, Daniel. Don't do it. Please reassure me there weren't any cats in there. Not even the BBC would do that, would they? I thought Dan Massey was stupendous. And he was quite a jolly man. In between scenes. But so good. They must have been overjoyed to get those parts. Michael Bryant, I suppose Mathieu is the lead, if anybody's the lead. He was a wonderful actor because he was so effortless. I mean, what he was doing was splendid, but he didn't seem to be doing it, but he was.
I suppose something like this will be used on Marcel. They'll probe around inside her and kill it. No, not kill. Prevent its being born. Oh, don't lie to yourself, Mathieu. It's a death. You know it's a death. That little embryo inside her has all the potential of a completed child, a man. It's all there. Limbs, flesh marks, character. Waiting to greet the world.
An extraordinary scene that is. It would be a brave programme maker who included scenes like that today. We could do it today, And there are some brave filmmakers who would. But what he was saying was extraordinary. Very moving, very graphic, quite uncomfortable, really. I suppose you get away with it back then by it being a classic novel. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote it, therefore we can show it on television. Whereas if it was written by a contemporary writer back in the 60s, it would never have been allowed through. It was kind of visceral, in a way. It's quite hard to shock an actor, because we've all been asked to do all sorts of bizarre things and revealing things and dig into things you don't want to dig into. I think in the context of safe 60s, 70s telly, it was out there, certainly. But in the same way that, you know, things, other wonderful TV like Boys from the Black Stuff, for instance, shocked some people because of the violence. In Doctor Who, there were complaints from Mary Whitehouse about shocking scenes of violence. Shocking is good, I think. If you don't shock and you don't push the edge in storytelling, I don't think you're doing your job properly.